Hello, this is Smizlav the Slayer, and I'm actually going to be commentating a live standard chess game. You notice over here the time is at 40 minutes. So this is going to take a while. I'll probably do it in a couple different parts. Hopefully the game is pretty interesting to merit this longer type of commentary. Basically, I just want to try it out, and hopefully it is cool. So, the opening here, I'll just get right to the game. The opening is a English opening, the symmetrical variation, and I played d4, and this is all pretty typical. And I think I'm going to go into e4, excuse me, and that will go into something like that Moravsky bind, which is really a very complicated opening. It seems kind of, people make it out to, like it's a simple opening, like you just prevent d5 or b5. I guess it's kind of the Moravsky bind / hedgehog. I kind of confuse those two a lot, but it's very complicated, kind of weird play. It's not at all simple or straightforward. So hopefully we'll be able to figure some things out. So I'm gonna make sure to play the bishop here to prevent knight to g4s. Also make sure, especially the internet, you're used to blitz, so I really want to make sure that I take the time that I have here, not just blitz out moves just out of habit. So hopefully commentating will help with that a little bit too. So we're going to prevent knight to g4, and that allows us to play bishop e3 pretty handily. And so that's pretty good. And then queen to d2. Probably kingside castle. I don't see queenside castling as being very good in this position. I think f3 first, though, to prevent knight g4, because and without losing the light square bishop. But if queen to d2 right now, knight to g4, and bishop takes, we lose the light square bishop. So I think f3 looks good here. Now it's kind of black and, okay, a6. That's kind of typical stuff. I think I might actually delay queen to d2 and just go straight for the castle. It does give black, he doesn't have to worry about like hack attacks and stuff like that. But I don't think he would really need to worry too much about those kind of that kind of stuff anyway. Another interesting idea that's possible here is maybe knight c2. Knight c2. It's a pretty slow move, but with the way the position, these hedgehog / Moravsky bind positions play out, they tend to be really keen on slow positional maneuvering. And I think also rook c1 is a good move here, something good to consider. Actually, let me try to think a little bit of long-term stuff here. Rook c1, rook e1, bishop f1, bishop f2 maybe, though I do like the bishop on this diagonal as well. So the bishop might be on a good square. Knight c2, knight e3, knight d5 maybe something. a3, b4, or b3. You can still play a3 and b3. Rook c1, maybe queen to d2, rook f to d1. Have the rooks here. And then trade off this dark square bishop. f4, f5 is another attacking idea. Part of it will depend on where this bishop goes. h3 I don't like, or h4 actually. Any kind of h-pawn attack, which is something you normally want to do against this pawn structure. I don't care much because we played already f3 and the king's over here on the king's side. Maybe if a few pieces get traded off, a few like minor pieces or even the queens or something, then an attack like that, or just a way of breaking up his kingside pawn structure might be better. I'm going to go ahead and play, let's think about this a little more. Oh, let's look at my opponent's threats too. He's got knight to e5, attacking the c4 pawn, so that knight to b3. Protecting the c3 knight would be good with queen to d2. He's got bishop to e6, which also attacks the c4 pawn. So c4 pawn is actually quite a bit under attack, even at this early stage. So we're probably going to have to play b3 at some point. And I think it's actually best to play rook c1 to give that c-pawn a little bit extra protection, and also to protect this c3 knight. So, whereas queen d2 does protect this c3 knight, but it doesn't protect the c4 pawn, and it also doesn't get this rook off this diagonal. And with the rook on c1, b3 becomes a lot better, a lot easier to play. And I think that's going to be the best move in this position. So I'm going to go ahead and play that then. Now let's see, bishop d7, rook f to e8, rook f to d8, e5, okay, that makes sense. Now, we also have this knight to d5 idea. Now can we just ignore this, and is there any value for that? Knight takes c4, bishop takes c4, queen takes c4, knight to d5, queen to, like a2, I guess. Queen takes a2, knight takes e7, checking over here. That doesn't actually look that good in the end result of that. I think just maybe b3 here would be best. Just keep it real simple. He's going to play b5 though, but takes, b3, and if he opens the c file with b5, that's good for us. We'll gladly do that. We might actually also want to play d5 right now and try to open the c file for ourselves. And this dark square bishop is almost nullified, as this knight's very well protected. This knight is fairly well protected, and there's nothing over here. So we don't have to worry as much about these two squares, any weaknesses on them. Also, I'm doing a little bit better, I think, with time management than my opponent. I've used up 6 minutes and 25 seconds, and he's only used up 1 minute and 50 seconds. He or she. So, with a longer game, you can be gender neutral with your pronouns. But anyway, yeah. Queen to d2, I think, might be something next. And then I think, well, see, that's a tricky part about this, because I just said that the dark square bishop is neutralized a bit. And but now queen to t2, bishop to h6, what sense does that make if this thing's neutralized? Honestly, it doesn't make sense, unless I plan for an attack on the king's side, which, I mean, would be great at some point. Okay, my opponent's going to move here. Would be great at some point. I'm going to finish this thought, though. It would be great at some point, but I'm not sure if this position is, I don't really think I can get much of a kingside attack quite yet. Though I do have f4, f5 with this knight, a free knight move. Ooh, see, h3. Okay. Well, if he plays bishop to b7, then the h3 move becomes a lot better, because I don't have to worry as much about bishop takes h3, g takes h3, and then my kingside's a mess. And if I do play h3, then f4, f5 becomes a much stronger idea, because he can't play knight e to g4 in response to f4. And actually, if he moves his bishop here, I can just play f4 right away, because I have my light square bishop here, so I don't have to waste time with h3, which is pretty excellent. So f4, f5 is actually a very strong idea, which I should definitely take into account. Now what if he does knight c6, knight d7, f5? The problem is, after I get the pawn to f5, it doesn't quite do anything, because f takes g6, f takes g6, and I haven't achieved really anything. That's quite a big problem. Though I do have this e6 square. So if he plays a knight to c6, f4, knight c6, f5, knight takes. I mean, see, that's the problem, is bishop takes, and then I can't take advantage of this e6 square. At least at that stage. Because my queen is doing a little. Oh, see, my queen. That's another problem. The queen on e1 or d1, excuse me, is protecting this g4 square. Whereas if I do move the queen to d2, it's not protecting this g4 square anymore. So I would need to play h3 and f4. So playing queen to d2 isn't just a safe, flexible catch-all move. It's not exactly a waiting move, because if I do that, I'll lose one of the resources that I am kind of looking forward to. This b6 pawn is actually weak too. I got knight to a4, maybe knight to a4, and then knight to somewhere. And this pawn is weaker.